Hold on, my friends. This is Old Soldiers Never Die, a Star Trek adventure module set created by the Fast Corporation for Star Trek The Role Playing Game. And it is not too bad. I mean, I actually played this one out on one occasion, so it wasn't, it was a little different, right? We got into some things that we normally didn't always cover in. Uh, It says here the plot synopsis: the group aboard the USS Sparon sets their course for Memory Alpha, responding to a break-in at the Starfleet Museum there. While en route, the crew picks up a distress call from the Tan-Track Nightwalker ship of unknown registry. After searching the area with the USS Holly, a Batter-class scout, they find no ship, and the Sparon continues on to Memory Alpha. Once there, Commander Romaine, the museum curator, explains a single individual tried to break into the museum storage area containing his historical exhibits. The attempt was unsuccessful, and the culprit was captured. Incidentally, this museum level is also where the controls are kept to maintain the tractor beams on the museum ships in orbit around Memory Alpha. The prisoner is Durkan Wiltz from Daran V. When questioned, he describes his motives for attempting the burglary: a mysterious band going by the initials of EQ and an organization of rebellious Starfleet veterans are somehow mixed up with the crime. The players group then must travel to Daran 5, where they track down the prime suspects behind the Memory Alpha burglary. After arriving in the trade world, however, they learn that the Orion pirate ship has stolen a large starship from Memory Alpha. The spacejackers use some kind of shearing plane to break the tractor field, then headed for unknown space with their prize. Once refitted, the stolen ship would make an excellent pirate vessel, and so the player characters must track down anyone who might know the identities of the Orion pirates. So as the group begins their investigation of EQ and the veterans group on Daran, they notice Commander Gabriel Matthews, captain of the USS Halley, attending one of the veterans' meetings. He is later killed. The group learns he was carrying out his own covert investigation of the veterans organization. Meanwhile, a Starfleet intelligence officer contacts the group, and he seems to know far more than he's willing to admit. Later, the veterans belonging to the organization threaten the crew of the Sparon. One of the organization's leaders is fatally wounded in a group's presence. Before he dies, however, he's able to give those present a clue to the riddle. End quotes. Old soldiers never die, they just get decommissioned. The stolen starship turns out to be the last surviving Romulan battlecruiser captured during the Romulan War. The group was left to find a solution to the word puzzle, and the answers contained in the accompanying booklet, The Romulan War. The solution reveals the identity of the only man on Daran who knows the location of the stolen starship. The crew of the Sparon must discover the vessel's hiding place before it is overhauled and begins its new life as an Orion pirate vessel. So, basically, what we're doing is we're looking at the a little bit different adventure. It says here that it's designed for Merchant Marine Command personnel Starfleet serving aboard the USS Sparon, a 9,000 metric ton Carrack class explorer, but you could use any other ship. Contents of the book: patrol duty, the request for assistance about to break in, patrol duty, a lack of interest, arrival at Memory Alpha. Sparon enters standard orbit around Memory Alpha. This ship sensor detects a number of other starships in orbit around the planetoid. In addition to transports carrying visitors to museums, tractor beams hold the historical starships in orbit as part of the museum itself. Occasionally, some of these starships are open for visitors to observe their interiors. The warp drives, weapons, and deflector shields of all the historical starships at Memory Alpha have been removed. Some of these starships include the Franklin series probe, the USS Horizon, the USS Juggernaut, the IKV Khazar Fundith, the Klingon K-17 class scout, USS Scipio, USS Xenon, Captain Garth's destroyer in the battle at Axnar. Note: the only vessel at Memory Alpha that has never been open to the public is the Juggernaut. Commander Romaine realizes this, but she will not realize this significance. The USS Juggernaut is an experimental battlecruiser constructed after the Romulan War. So, Thief from Daran, The Forgotten Room, tracking down, trying to learn the truth, the cover-up. The real mission. Anyone makes a successful roll against their interrogation rating or if other means are used, the group obtains the following information. One is he hired by a man called EQ, lives in a luxury home in an expensive part of Daenerys. Willis has never met EQ, nor has he been to EQ's home. The man just brags about him when talking to Willis over audio only. EQ arranged passage for Willis to come to Memory Alpha. Willis does not know how EQ did it. Willis is supposed to find out the strict security procedures on sub-level 4 of Memory Alpha. If he was caught, he was supposed to blame his action on Devast and Devarda. He has no why EQ wants to know about the Memory Alpha's security. After all, he was not being paid to ask questions. He may be able to put the group in contact with EQ in exchange for a reduced sentence. EQ usually calls him at certain times at certain places. It might be possible to get a lead on EQ then. Destination Daran V, where the thief broke in or came from, and where this EQ is supposedly at Daran. Then late night. Disturbing news. Late night, the communications officer receives a memo from Memory Alpha. Greatest possible calamity has taken place 2 hours before this transmission sent Federation vessel USS Juggernaut with spacejack from its tractor orbit around Memory Alpha. The ship is gone, and I have no idea where it's at. Here's the 1 minute here following present course. Tractor beam was operating perfectly, and Orion starship showed up, assumed orbit, not identifying itself. Maneuvered within several kilometers of Juggernaut. Next thing I know, both ships are leaving the air under warp 3. The tractor beam was never shut off. Says, you know how large the Juggernaut is. Can you imagine what happened if some Orion family gets a hold of that gargantuan crap, refits it, warp drive, and weapons? Ship could raise space piracy to a level the Federation has not seen in ages. It's already contracted military operations, but they have no major warships in the area. They're diverting ships immediately, but this area of space is so many metallic asteroids and meteor belts that the Orion pirates could remain hidden for a long time. Go find the ship or figure out what happened to it. The investigation, first steps in your investigation, finding out the Starfleet agent, first rendezvous. For 2 days after the group visits the agency, Sergeant Adam Stone contacts the players' group. He said he was assigned by HARS act as an observer, asked for complete briefing on the group's progress. Oddly, Stone is very cagey and does not seem to know much about the group's meeting with HARS or any reports filed with HARS since that time. Group contacts HARS to check on Stone's credentials. HARS expresses complete confusion. Yes, he does have a Sergeant Stone under his command, but Stone is an administrative officer employed primarily for clerical duties. Stone is not a field officer. We're talking to HARS with the Starfleet intelligence. If Stone is confronted, he admitted he's actually Lieutenant Commander in Starfleet Intelligence. He overheard fragments of the discussion from police headquarters and reported his own superiors. Let's see, wheels with inside a wheel. Now we're talking about the organization, Devast, which is a group of retired Starfleet officers and personnel who still have some issues to gripe about. Days 5 through 9, time to kill, course of action. Day 10, Devast round 2. Stone's called a meeting of the group in the morning. Will suggests they think the evening's Devast meeting. Wills warns the group that the crowd could be even more hostile than other nights in view of Matthew's death. Durkin proved correct. The meeting of the night is like the one 6 nights earlier, except many of the crowd are in a frenzy of righteous anger. Some are even armed with weapons that the players group will recognize as blast rifles. If Silic or Strand attend, the people in the crowd harass them with comments such as, "I don't like your looks and I'll see you after the meeting." All the player characters know that the blast rifles are weapons used on some frontier worlds, including Daran V, for recreational hunting. Blast rifles are effective at long ranges but have very long cycling time and are expensive to recharge. These characteristics were built into them deliberately so that the rifles will not be used effectively for criminal purposes. Thus, they can be fired once only every minute, otherwise every 6 combat rounds. Blast rifles hold 5 charges, and each charge does 4d10 plus 15 points of damage at close range. Speeches at this evening's meeting are more hostile than before, though less coherent in content. This group leaves the meeting while these three possible situations occur. 1. A player character spoke with Matthews at the last meeting. A group of veterans equal in number to the sparing contingent will surround the group when they leave the building. 2 of the veterans are armed with blast rifles. They give this warning: "We know you were friends with that lowlife Matthews. If you're careful, you'll get exactly what he got. Only it won't be nice and clean. If any Vulcans are present, another veteran will add especially to him or them. I have a special place in my mantle where I love to mount a pair of those ears." The veterans laugh, but clear a path. The group is free to leave or fight. 2. If no player character spoke to Matthews, but at least one Vulcan is present, 1d10 plus 5 veterans attack each Vulcan in hand-to-hand combat as one other veteran equipped with a blast rifle stands by. It is up to the player characters to fight their way out any way they want. Once the combat begins, no additional veterans will intervene. A player character uses a phaser, or if combat goes badly for the veterans, the rifle-armed veteran will fire his weapon randomly selected player characters, and then run off. 3. If player characters did not speak to Matthews, no Vulcans at present, no incident occur, and the group is free to leave. So it gives you an idea of what's going on in there. Date 11 to the rescue, evening festivities. Day 12, second rendezvous. Day 16, a death in the family. Old soldiers do die. Following the clues. Background information on everything. So what we got here, computer search. DVAST is the Daran Veterans Association for Strength. It was established approximately 6 standard years ago. Its members are mostly retired Starfleet personnel and other individuals involved in interstellar commerce or transportation. The group's declared intentions are to encourage the Federation Council and Starfleet Command to pursue a more assertive policy against major non-member powers. The whereabouts of individual members are not known, but this group is believed to meet in District L of Daenerys and is immune from prosecution. Their goals appear to include continued Federation territorial expansion using the military maintain its momentum, the establishment of a heavy militarized zone near the Klingon, Romulan, Gordon, Tholian space, offensive thrusts into the territories of the above powers, a radical increase of ship construction, appropriations for Starfleet military operations and Marine Corps commands. The organization's current leader and primary spokesman, Aravind Devarda, is a former colonel in the Starfleet Marine Corps Command and a veteran of the 4 Years' War. He's a militant individual advocating the achievement of his organization's goal through any means necessary. So now you know what that means. Keyword: Elliot Han. Elliot Han is a wealthy resident of District H, Daran V. He's skilled independent financier and broker specializing in Orion trade goods. Han is a native of Daran and has operated out of his personal residence and from Daran's orbital spaceport for the last 10 years, presumably speculating or imported merchandise. For that, he was in off-world several years and may have been living on Orion 8 or an Orion colony. Could you suppose that might be EQ? You never know. Starfleet Intelligence. Operation Breeding for Golden Pheasant. X words. Game questions. There's a set of hex maps for fighting combat if necessary. Starfleet Museum itself. Various levels. Specifically sub-level 4, the main building. District L. Various Starfleet vessels. An Orion blockade runner. Juggernaut. Cast of characters. There you have it. Adventure outcomes. says, although the scenario gives detailed victory conditions, Old Soldiers Never Die has no complex formula for evaluating a player's success or failure. If the group does not make the vital connection between Lunbar's last speech, the Hex Worlds game, and Elliot Hand, then they have failed. If they have figured out the mystery and sent a message off to the USS Lexington, then the group has succeeded. Should the player's group fail to solve the mystery, the Lexington will accidentally locate Juggernaut when the refitted battlecruiser is en route to Rigel 8. At that point, the stolen starship and the Orion pirate vessel will be destroyed. Thus, the group's failure will not benefit the Orion piracy operations or have a major impact on the Federation's future. Of course, the group should not know this, right? So, like I said, it's a pretty standard, but it has some options and some available stuff in here for play that's not your traditional thing. It's a matter of taste, I guess, right? So, Old Soldiers Never Die.